We are on the razor's edge. So much has been going down. So much has happened. Just want to go ahead and kick off this episode with not the usual trigger warning disclaimer, because really it's not as bad as usual, I think. But that's because we're a little bit more clinical. This is the second part of the Manson's psychiatric evaluation. And I want to preface this by saying, and I say this in the stream, but I am not a psychiatrist. I do not have a master's degree. I cannot diagnose, nor can I write a treatment plan. And as we established in the stream, we don't know enough about Manson's paternal history to make even educated guesses with the information we have. So just wanted to let you know, I am a lot of things. I have a lot of certifications, but being a psychiatrist or a therapist is not yet one of them. So. But that being said, it's fun. Like, I'm fascinated. One was psychology, obviously, because it's my field of study and what I work in. And I do work in the behavioral health care system. So, there's that. Even going back to when I was living with my ex-wife and looking at her going, what the fuck? Is she borderline? Is she narcissistic? Is this PTSD and CPTSD that's just so extreme and so bad that it looks like borderline or bleeds into it? Or, is she a sociopath? It's like, is she oppositional defiant disorder? Like, what am I fucking looking at? And eventually, through the ethnological research, I realized, holy shit, she's fucking all of them. But she wasn't schizophrenic because she was so consistent in what she did. And that's the same with Manson. It's like he might have some kind of schizoaffective thing in his family or something that's flipping his trigger, but he's way too consistent to be considered schizo or schizoaffective. So definitely some CPTSD, but probably borderline. And I have to get over my own biases because most of the time borderline are women. So I overlook it in men. I've done it before. I had a situation last week where I had a supervisor like, blah, 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 borderline. And I'm like, oh, shit, you're right. And I didn't even look at it because this is a dude. But the clusters were there. So it's like, I'm learning too still. So it's just a lesson to me that anytime we're dealing with these like cluster B personality disorders, I need to not skip borderline just because it's a dude. I'm learning. Boy can be taught, y'all. Anyway, here we go.
Always is always forever. Fun is fun is fun. Always is always forever. Decide yourself for your father.
Ramble in a desert blind. Whispers of a twisted mind. Found paradise in hell. Stories only he could tell. Children of a broken dream followed his unholy scheme. Promised lands through bloody hands, swept beneath the devil's plans. Manson shadows on the wall, creeping closer to the fall. Twisted preacher in the night, spreading chaos with delight. Desert nights and eerie chants, serpent's eyes in a devil's glance. Heavens shattered by his word, absurd. Hope crushed in wicked fire, lost soul swayed by desire. In the dark they found their king, caught in webs his lies would bring. Children's laughter turns to cries, echoes of the night's disguise, promises of pain and chains, left them wandering insane.
Hi everyone. Yes, tonight I'm going to do a part 2 to the stream I did last week because I miscalculated how interested people will be in the schizophrenia and psychosis aspect of the report and what they said. Basically, actually, if you look at the analytics, people replayed the part about schizophrenia more than any other part. So I decided to add a part 2, and I'm going to talk more about the schizophrenia or possible schizophrenia diagnosis that Charles Manson has or had that you get in this report. And in order to explain exactly what he means, I've got to explain what schizophrenia is. So I'm going to go through that. And Jeremy's going to come and join me at the end of the presentation because he understands these things as well because of his job. So yeah, we'll get on with that in a minute and I'll make sure there's chapters. Oh yeah, and we're going to watch William again, who's the man who had disordered speech that we watched last week, because that's the part everyone replayed and I didn't really give much analysis of him, so we'll watch that again and I'll give you more analysis because you're probably trying to catch what he's saying where you've been replaying that, aren't you? Yeah, so I'll show you the transcript of what he said and what it possibly is showing us and that. Yeah, I might as well just start the presentation. But 30 people here already. And like I say, when Jeremy joins me, we'll flick back through the slides and talk about specific things more. Right, so common myths about schizophrenia. It means the person has a split personality. It doesn't. It doesn't mean the person has multiple personalities. It doesn't mean the person is always violent. And it doesn't mean the person is always hearing voices. It is a disorder affecting thinking, perception, and behaviour. It is not the same thing as dissociative identity disorder, which is the thing where people really do have another personality, or sometimes several personalities. Well, there's even a version called polyfragmented dissociative identity disorder where they have many personalities. But that's not the same as schizophrenia. The confusion comes from the name itself. Schizophrenia comes from the Greek words meaning split mind, but this refers to a disruption in thinking, perception, and reality testing, not to multiple or split personalities. So what does disorganized thinking sound like? Right, William is a person living with schizophrenia. In this clip, he appears to show a positive symptom called thought disorder, where the person's ideas may make sense individually, but become difficult to follow because the connections between them are unclear. And it results in disordered speech. That's why he's saying he's showing disordered speech. This is how you know.
The third type of symptom that may be present is disorganization of thought and speech.
So that the thoughts are disconnected, and when a person speaks, there's either a great deal of tangential, circumstantial, rambling kinds of lack of connectedness of one thought to the other.
Like in the daytime, when I be outside in the sun, I used to show my friends things that they hadn't seen before, like the halo. See, like halo, when I was 19, when I was a preacher, and I had my trials, I used to see a little light over my shadow on the ground in the daytime. And then now, ever since then, it's like a light coming further down over my body, around my shadow. It's over my body, but around my shadow, and I see the light, which is your halo, your aura. And that's why everybody can't see that. But if you see, you got something to do with the drugs too, we say. And now I don't know what's for real. I know what I see, but I don't know if it's for real or not. And so that's why you say people are different. And see, like that anointing, like see, like sometimes when I come outside, I can see when I look at the trees, the wind starts blowing. Cause we know we get oxygen from the plants and we get them carbon dioxide. And so it's the wind usually blows sometimes, but it don't blow all the time. Like when I'm in the house a long time, it blows real strong.
So he starts out, basically, he's about in the daytime, he goes outside and he's seeing lights in his shadow that has spread to become a halo around his shadow. And he thinks other people can see this as well, he's saying, isn't he? And there's a point where he says something about, and when you've got someone doing the drugs, they say, I don't know if it's for real. I don't know if what I see is real. So, and then he's saying that's why you see people different. And then the end of it, he's not really talking about the halos, is he? He says about anointing, and he sees something about the trees and that, you see, so it becomes disjointed. Though at first, and there's a thing called religious delusions, he's probably having some sort of religious delusions. So the themes are, spiritual experiences, halos and auras, reality versus perception, medication, and seeing people differently. Don't automatically assume the reference to drugs mean recreational drug use. People with mental illness often refer to prescribed psychiatric medication as drugs. The ideas are not random, but the links between them are difficult to follow. And there's also a thing called neologisms. It's a completely new word or phrase invented by the person that has meaning only to them. It isn't the same thing as making up a funny word. The person often experiences the word as meaningful and real. They may not realise that nobody else knows what the word means. So they haven't thought up something new and made a name for it. They think the word is real. An example is something like, the government are using splinkification rays, or I'm suffering from zortosis. These words don't exist outside the person's own thinking. Neologisms are often associated with severe thought disorder and schizophrenia, although they can occur in other conditions too. Because when you hear him saying indiscernible words and that, he could possibly be. I don't think he really was. I think he just became indiscernible, but that's a possibility when people have thought disorders. They can make up a word that doesn't mean anything to anyone else, but they think it's a real word, and they may act surprised when you don't understand the word. You don't know what they're talking about. And what is a psychotic disorder? Psychotic disorders can affect thinking, beliefs, perception, and your sense of reality. Examples are schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, delusional disorder, and substance-induced psychosis. There's a whole range of psychotic disorders. And positive versus negative symptoms of schizophrenia. So positive symptoms are things that are added. So this is when they're having hallucinations, delusions, thought disorder, and disorganized speech. And negative symptoms are when things are reduced. So there's alogia, reduced speech, so they don't speak. Or when you speak to them, they might take a very long time to respond, and they're not ignoring you. It just takes them a very long time to respond. Avolition, which is reduced motivation, and they might really not move a lot, really be really slow to move, and they'll lose motivation to do things. And flat affect, so no facial expression. They don't show any emotion on their face. And social withdrawal, they don't want to see people and talk to people. And there's anhedonia, a reduced ability to experience pleasure or enjoyment. So they don't take pleasure in food. That might be a video game they normally enjoy playing. They can't take pleasure in things. And so the simple way to understand this is positive symptoms of what the person does and negative symptoms of what the person doesn't do. So what does in remission mean? Manson's 1976 diagnosis was paranoid schizophrenia in partial and fluctuating remission. Remission does not mean cured, gone forever, no symptoms. It means the symptoms have reduced, functioning has improved, but the symptoms may return, because they say partial and fluctuating as well, so he was slipping in and out of symptoms. But they don't use all these different words to describe schizophrenia now, like the different categories, like paranoid. When I was first learning about this, they still used hypervigilance. Paranoid and hyperphrenic schizophrenics were the two different categories. But if you go right back to the 50s, there's catatonic as well. There's lots of different words that they don't use anymore. Now we just say the person's schizophrenic and they have positive and negative symptoms. And in remission just means their symptoms are clearing up a bit and they're functioning again. They're all right. And what is reality testing? Because this is one of the things they say Manson showed in the report. Reality testing is the ability to distinguish between reality and thoughts, beliefs, perception, and imagination. You remember we just heard William there, and I put it in italics for a reason. William at one point says, when people take the drugs, I know from what I can see, but I don't know if it's for real or not. So that's him starting to question his psychosis, his delusion. He's starting to, because to them it's real. When someone's having a delusion, it's their reality. And so he's starting to question whether it's real or not. So is he completely convinced or is he questioning his own experience? This is exactly what psychologists mean by reality testing. So they're saying Manson showed some kind of example of that sort of process. And just to answer a question in more detail that someone asked last week, can LSD trigger psychosis? Current evidence suggests LSD can produce psychotic-like experiences. It may trigger psychosis in vulnerable individuals. and it may accelerate onset in people already predisposed of a psychotic disorder. So not just schizophrenia, like I said, there's a whole range of psychotic disorders. So it may accelerate any psychedelic drug, so cannabis can as well, and magic mushrooms and any psychedelic drug. Psychiatrists once described LSD as psychotomimetic as well. This is back in the 50s and 60s. They thought they could use it to build a model of schizophrenia, to learn about it from the inside sort of thing. But then they changed their view, a lot of the people. I wrote more about that in the Substack article if you're interested. And just look up that word, psychotomimetic LSD, and you'll find all the studies. It's interesting. And why this timing matters, right? Schizophrenia usually begins in men in their late teens to early 20s. And there's no hard and fast rule. Some people have it from childhood even, but generally, men, if they're going to get it, generally develop it in their late teens to early 20s. And women tend to get it in their 20s, early to late 20s, and there's actually another spike around when we go through menopause. There's another chance that you could have not showed symptoms your whole life, but suddenly around menopause you will. And Manson was 32 at the time of the murders, and we don't know really, but the information we have is he was not diagnosed until 1976. So this raises an obvious question: were symptoms present before the diagnosis? Like, how was he really in 1969? Charles Manson's 1976 diagnosis, according to the report, was paranoid schizophrenia, partial and fluctuating remission, above average intelligence, because later he says his intelligence was average, and his Rorschach responses were considered diagnostic of schizophrenia.
A bat, 'cause the wings, the center, the way it has the claws from the pussy-shaped thing. There's a bat face. Bats' faces are wrinkled. These two things sticking up, their tail. It's a pussy. Looks like that. Two mounds protruding. Womb? Because that's the way a woman looks. It assimilates, looking down. Female legs spread apart or facing it, looking right at it. Womb holds fascination in a man's mind. Two KKK men with wings, sitting on top of the heads of two Negroes, with a boot on the bottom of it. Ku Klux Klan Negroes, simultaneous wings, has to have something to do with them. Two Chihuahuas rubbing noses. Here's their long, pointy snouts. Short Chihuahua ears. Their butts turned towards each other along with their noses. Two guys yelling at each other. Their lips hanging over, bits of spit coming out. A supersonic jet airplane. It's got spray. It's a jet motor. Different colors make it look in motion. Two dancers with female breasts and male genitals, with hands on top of a male skinhead with glasses. Heavy shades, round shape, looks like space goggles. Skinhead, don't have hair this round. And a butterfly with two hearts. Wings, two hearts on a butterfly heart. A butterfly with two hearts as wings. Some shape and color, red. Goofy. Uterus. Pussy on top of a robot's head. Big robot with a helmet on. Arms not showing. It's a Borg like on Star Trek, remember? Pussy. It's the same thing. Get the effect when you fold the paper. Look. The split suggests the womb.
That's Batman, like in the movie. The antennas of a bat, the tail, the wings. Looks like a fiction. More like a Batman character than a real bat. Two alligators. Here are the jaws. Two Rip Van Winkles asleep. The hair, because it's broken lines on a mustache and beard. Each one looks like a pussy. Two dogs looking out from the lips of a pussy. It's like two frogs talking to each other. Two gooky-like rodents talking to each other. It looks like the top of a dick with a French tickler. Definitely phallic. Two females staring at each other. Don't get much out of it. Looks like two of something. Jaws stuck out. Looks like Broadway play. Unsinkable, like Molly Brown. Got that pixie look. Pekingese-like look. Or two clowns. Court jesters. Hat. Eyes. Nose. Slunk back. Just two of them looking away from each other. Two lizards crawling up the backbone. Here's the backbone. Burrow or deer backbone. Like two big dinos at the bottom. Head, feet, tail. Looking up at the bluebirds. It's the head of a wolf. Lighter part looks like eyes, snout. Two little bluebirds, like flying inside the blue pattern. A dragon sitting on top of a witch's head. Her head is coming from dragon's eyes, mouth open, pop bellies coming out.
Like a hippie with a mustache, wearing shades with the Eiffel Tower on top of his head. There are two caterpillars on the side, with their mouths open. On top of the head's the tower. Two caterpillars similar to the ones sat on a toadstool smoking a pipe. Here's teardrops that look like fried eggs, fried egg tears. Two dancing beetles on top of the caterpillar's head, holding up the Eiffel Tower. Two blue elves waving green flags, coming out of the yellow morning glories. Yellow flowers are blooming from the lobster claw. Blue elves, spiritual elves. Jesus on with his feet, little pot bellies, shaped like morning glories. First one ever seen. I can see anything I want.
Though Dr. Roy did not have the raw data from this assessment, just the psychiatrist's summary. Because you see, if they had the data, the actual everything he recorded, then they could analyse it by modern standards, but they haven't got the raw data for the 1976 one. But Dr. Roy gives you his raw data, and in this report, modern psychologists analyse it by modern standards. That's what's going on in this paper, basically. But we don't have the raw data from 1976, so we can't tell how wrong he was, basically, because things have changed since then. And the Pelican Bay evaluation was conducted by Dr. Todd Roy, and the purpose was to determine whether Manson required psychiatric housing. So it was nothing to do with any legal issue, like to determine his guilt or innocence or anything like that. And also, yeah, good question someone asked, why is this public? Because isn't this Charles Manson's private medical records? Even Charles Manson has a right to privacy. Charles Manson gave consent for this to be made public after his death. And also, it's not the full records, it's just parts of the data and the summary that the psychiatrist wrote. So it's not really his full medical record. And he gave consent, that's why we have this stuff. Yeah, and how is a Rorschach test actually scored? So some people have misconceptions about what they can actually tell from it. They think it only tells your emotional state. But the psychologists actually score thinking patterns, reality testing, perception, emotional themes, thought disorder, and problem solving. So they're assessing your ability to do all these things from it. So it can just be used to determine your emotional state. But in a situation like this, where they're assessing a prisoner, they can get all sorts from your responses. The answer in itself is only part of the scoring. In the XNet comprehensive system, right, this is all the letters. If you look, I've circled the letters and you can find the whole report. I'll make sure it's linked in the description later. All these letters, it's telling you where on the blot he saw it, where he pointed to. So W means the whole blot, D means a common detail, DD means an unusual detail, a less commonly used part, and S means white space response, and there's a whole list of these. That's what all those scores mean. And so if Manson says a bat and Roy codes it as D, that usually means Manson used a common section of the blot rather than the whole ink blot. The number next to the D is often identifying which detail area on that particular card was used. For example, D1, D2 or D3 doesn't mean schizophrenia level 1, 2 or 3. It means common detail area 1, common detail area 2, common detail area 3, basically, on that specific card. So think of it as a map reference telling other psychologists the subject was looking at this part of the ink blot. Basically, yeah. So there's obviously all the blots, every part of it's labelled. So this is how you can tell. But they can actually find a lot from it, not just your emotional state. Yeah. And they did do other tests as well. This wasn't the only test they did. Or he did. There was only one psychologist actually tested him. And he found he was positive on the schizophrenia index, psychotic disorder NOS, positive hypervigilance index, elevated cognitive special scores, so the test found repeated signs of unusual, disorganized or unconventional thinking, and severe thought disorder, which was Roy's interpretation at the time. So what does psychotic disorder NOS mean? It means not otherwise specified. So Roy believes psychotic symptoms were present, however, he did not assign a specific diagnosis such as schizophrenia. Think of it as psychosis detected, exact category uncertain. So even the guy at the time didn't say he definitely has schizophrenia, but he's saying he did test on the, on the scale of schizophrenia, but he couldn't positively diagnose him, basically. And what does hypervigilance actually mean? It's constant scanning for threats, suspiciousness, distrust, heightened awareness. Does it sound familiar from Manson interviews? And if you watch, there are interviews where he's sat in a room and they film him for quite a long time. And you'll notice things like, if the door opens or whatever, he looks towards the door. You know, he reacts to sounds around him a lot. This is constant scanning for what's happening and who's coming in and out of the room and all that sort of thing. And I think, yes, in some of the interviews you can see him, they're showing hypervigilance. And why did experts disagree? Because Roy in 1997 said thought disorder, psychosis, schizophrenia-related indicators, but the reassessment in 2022 said psychopathy, personality pathology, performance, less support for schizophrenia. Same man, same test results, different conclusions. So yeah, basically they concluded these thoughts weren't disorganized enough to qualify as disorganized thought, like schizophrenia symptoms. The later psychologists that analysed Dr. Roy's data. Yeah, and this is an interesting point as well. What do we actually know about 1969? For Charles Watson, we've got extensive psychiatric records. And for Charles Manson, all we have is court footage, witness observations, trial records. Missing is a detailed psychiatric evaluation from the time of the murders. Just make the point, because I've never really shown this on screen, right? This is Charles Watson's psychiatry report, 103 pages. Right, this is all the information we've got about what was possibly going on in Charles Watson's head, Texas head, when he committed the murders. And the reason for that is he pleaded insanity, didn't he? So that was his defence. It becomes public record. Because Manson didn't plead insanity, we don't have the same amount of information, basically. Yeah, there's a lot of it. People don't realise when they look at the PDF how long it really is and how much there is. There is a lot of information there. The most important time to know whether Manson was experiencing psychotic symptoms is August 1969, not 1976, not 1997, not 2022, after he was dead, but that's when the report was written. The question the courts ultimately had to answer was, what was Manson's mental state at the time of the murders? And as I said earlier, if men are going to develop it, but this is not a hard and fast rule, but generally, if men are going to develop it, they develop it in their late teens, early 20s. So he would have been having symptoms. So the prosecution's case depended on Manson being legally responsible, capable of criminal intent, accountable for his actions. If significant psychosis had been established in 1969, those questions would have become more complicated. Whether psychotic symptoms were present at the time remains a matter of debate. So, final thoughts there. We know schizophrenia. He had a schizophrenia diagnosis in 1976. There were psychosis-related findings in 1997, and continuing disagreement among psychologists. We do not know Manson's precise mental state in August 1969, which is when it really matters, basically. Is that it? No. And if schizophrenia usually begins much earlier in life, and Manson was diagnosed in 1976, what was happening before then? And more importantly, what was happening in August 1969? That remains one of the most important unanswered questions in the Manson case. Because, don't want to accuse, the state of California of engaging in some kind of cover-up here, but, if you've seen my channel, there's a lot to question about this. And that's another major question. If Manson wasn't sane, then the whole helter-skelter thing falls apart totally. So they had good reason to try and downplay if he had schizophrenia or psychosis. But everyone who's looked at this can see how Manson was obviously becoming extremely paranoid and all this sort of thing. There's a lot of stuff that suggests. And someone pointed this out to me as well. The study that David Smith, or was it Roger Smith, wrote about the group marriage they had. There is actually a study of the Manson family that the guy from the Haight-Ashbury Clinic wrote. And in that, he says that Charles Manson was possibly an ambulatory schizophrenic, which is an old word, which means now we would say in remission. So he was did have schizophrenia symptoms, but he could still function and talk to people, basically. So, yeah. But back then that was called ambulatory, so able to cope, able to function. But we don't say that anymore. But yeah, so he met him in 68, 67, and so he said he was possibly schizophrenic back then. But that's the controversial thing. If he was schizophrenic and he was psychotic at the time of the murders, then it brings everything into question. We don't know. I only know from what he was telling people, because it's not just Nicholas Schreck. There's other people that were communicating when he was in prison, and I've heard that when he was in Vacaville, they were medicating him heavily and he didn't like it. But I don't think he ever named what specific medication that he was being given. But yeah, it would have been antipsychotics, schizophrenia medication. Or because it's not just doesn't only treat schizophrenia, any psychotic disorder. Jeremy, are you here as well? Can you find? Do you need me to send you the link? Sorry, I'm just trying to work out how to send Jeremy the link. Forgotten again. Yeah, and like I say, it's really frustrating that you can't see anything about any of the girls or Charlie's mental state at the time. Yet there is so much about text. But the reason for that is he pled insanity, so it became public record. And the only reason we even have this is because Manson consented for it, basically. Yeah, well, it even says in the report they suspected him of cannabis and LSD use. And this was in 1997. It was one of the reasons he got moved to Pelican Bay. It was because he had contraband. And he says that could have been a mobile phone. But they also suspected him of LSD use in 1997. So he was still getting acid. So, yeah. And that's the whole thing about that, making it look like you have psychosis. So did someone just see him while he was actually tripping and think that he had psychosis? Yeah. Are you there now? Here you go.
Hey, everybody.
Right, and we can get back to certain slides if you want. But yeah, psychotic disorders, and the way we talk about it now has changed totally from how it was when you're looking at what they said about Manson. That's the other thing.
Definitely, yeah, like how you were saying about the ambulatory schizophrenia, like we don't draw that distinction because they're schizophrenic. They have the diagnosis, and it depends on what part of the spectrum they're on with that. And so then also the whole paranoid schizophrenia isn't really a thing anymore either. No. They diagnose with clusters. And just as a little bit of background, my certifications are I'm a certified peer specialist. I am a medication assisted recovery specialist. I have a certification for the advanced peer supervision and crisis responsive peer. I have a degree, and then with my degree, I have a couple of certifications there. So I can do all kinds of stuff, but what I can't do legally is diagnose, and I cannot write treatment plans. Yeah. So just want to go ahead and clarify that. Like that's who I am professionally. Yeah,
and I wasn't, when I worked in this sector, I wasn't qualified to diagnose or write treatment plans, but I know how to interpret what the doctor's saying about them, because you have to understand that when I was a support worker, so I had to, help them.
Absolutely. So you have to work off the treatment plan. You have to be able to you have to be able to understand what you're looking at in order to implement these treatment plans and stuff. Yeah, for sure. And the way that it works is it's a cluster of symptoms that are looked at to diagnose. So especially back then, they were so limited in what they were looking at and in the available diagnoses. Is like back then they didn't have narcissistic personality disorder or borderline personality disorder.
They had no idea what PTSD was as well. They called it shell shock, and they thought it only affected soldiers. That was the closest thing you had to a PTSD diagnosis back then. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so while we're on that line, PTSD and CPTSD are two different diagnoses with kind of two different causes. CPTSD comes from the repeated exposure to the same type of abuse or trauma, and PTSD comes usually from like a singular traumatic incident, like a car crash or an assault or, something like that. And so BPD can mimic PTSD because the cluster of symptoms are so similar. So, like, if we're looking at it from one lens, you're going to diagnose it one way and diagnose it the other. And so, like, Manson might have some of that narcissistic personality disorder, borderline type stuff going on too.
But last week I did. They said grandiosity. That's another symptom of psychopathy, and that in it. Yeah, the grandiosity, delusions, grandeur, and that's so.
And like they say too, so schizophrenia is oftentimes biological. Schizoaffective, schizophrenic disorders are oftentimes biological. So without having that complete family history, especially on his dad's side, we're missing a big part of that.
They do know who his father is, don't they? But just don't know anything about it. Yeah, there is a name for him, but nothing known about his history or anything.
Right. And that puts us at a disadvantage with any kind of armchair diagnoses as well. So then if he is schizophrenic or schizoaffective, if he is schizophrenic,
I think he's more likely to be that, because schizoaffective is like a combination of bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. And I think he's some mania, which is part of bipolar disorder as well. If you watch him talking, that sort of sounds a bit more like the pattern of Manson's speech, doesn't it? And that's more associated with mania than just plain psychosis normally.
Sure. And then when you factor in the use of marijuana and other psychedelics, okay, so schizoaffective, schizophrenic people shouldn't use any drugs that aren't prescribed, obviously. They shouldn't drink alcohol. Those things will heighten their sense of disassociation and will allow their symptoms to come more to the forefront and come out of remission. And so I've had friends that were schizophrenic. My aunt was schizophrenic. So
we don't even know for sure.
Don't even know for sure. So that just
with
bears that.
schizoaffective disorder, which is a really complex one. It's hard to treat, and
without
very
that knowledge of that, without the knowledge of his family history, that puts it at a disadvantage. So Sam, that just bears out the point even more that it was Colonel Scott even really his father. And
we don't even know for sure he was, and we don't know anything about his mental health diagnosis, do we? Because they covered this up in the past. It was a source of shame as well. If your family had a history of mental illness, you didn't talk about it. So
they acted like if you isolated it and didn't acknowledge it, that was really
they even said you had bad blood. They wouldn't let other children play with you if they knew your mother was schizophrenic or something, because
like
they thought, she's going to have it.
Like it was contagious.
But
and see, we still are just now barely getting to where we're having the awareness to understand and look at it as something that, in fact, the more that it's isolated, the more that it isn't acknowledged and normalized, the worse the problem is getting. And so I know we were kind of discussing earlier in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up, it changed from psychosis or psychotic disorder and paranoid schizophrenic to bipolar was a big catch-all. They stopped calling it manic depression. Yeah, manic depression was a catch-all for all bipolar disorders, for both of them.
There's actually a region of your brain. Once they got the more advanced MRI scans, they could see what was happening. There's a whole region of the brain, the bipolar region, that is lighting up.
Bipolar is
basically a
very, very, very specific diagnoses with very, very, very specific clusters, and there's two very specific types. And so in the late 80s and early 90s, Axl Rose was diagnosed apparently as being bipolar, and that was what was printed in magazines, and he'd come out and like, I'm in therapy for bipolar disorder and all that. But really what he had was CPTSD, and he had anxiety disorders and ADHD symptoms that resulted from his CPTSD, but nobody looked at it like that because,
that didn't exist back then, did it?
Didn't really,
in the comments to the videos from last week, he had Charles Manson had CPTSD from his childhood.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
Being in prison all the time, he was in prison as well, and he's had as well. What trauma every day of his life, almost, didn't he?
Yes, and so that also bleeds into that borderline personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. Like the clusters are real similar in those. So all of that makes sense when you look at it really from the trauma aspect of what happened. That everything he was doing was a trauma response more than. I mean, I'm loath to just throw him into it. Looks like schizophrenia, but it's really not, because he was so consistent.
And his thoughts don't shoot off in the other direction. If you understand his slang, I think possibly there were psychiatrists listening to him who didn't understand the slang he was using, so they thought the things he was saying were unrelated. If you can understand what he's saying, they're not unrelated. There is a pattern.
Like maybe I'm still kind of sick in some ways, but whenever you play some of his interviews, especially in his most lucid moments when people are taking him seriously and not playing him up to be the big bad boogeyman monster, he's very articulate and makes a lot of sense, and what he says makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways.
Well, it's sad all over, really. It's hard for me to express how much sadness that I've went through to reach this point of understanding that I'm now talking to you from. How are you going to help somebody that don't want help? Hit them in the head and make them do it?
Will your book do that? Will you try?
Will I try?
To explain that.
Will I try to help you people destroy me some more? Is that what you're saying?
No.
That's what I'm doing here.
Will your book help children? Help parents?
I don't know whether it would help anyone. I've never thought about that. You guys would have to show me what help is so I'd know what it is. You teach me, I'll learn. I'm just a little kid in mine. See, I've been in jail 30-some years. I never lived in your world outside. I'm like a little kid out there.
Will your life story help somebody else to understand how to proceed?
If it was possible to present everything that's came down in the last few years in the proper perspective, it would be advantageous to other people, I would imagine. But if they had eyes in their head and they could see under the bed, they'd see that heads of lead and eyes of wood. It doesn't really matter because rubber fingers is taking the hand off into the universe anyway. The level of comprehension that you hold in your mind is only taught you by a school book that's in a sorority house. My father jumps off the Second World War in the ruptured ducks that were in the little pins and the buttons, in Section 8 in the nut wards, and all the people that have gone crazy.
Your father was crazy?
My father was all men that I've ever met in prison. Mel's one of my fathers. Creepy Carpus is another. I learned something from everyone. The captains, the wardens, I never missed anybody. I learned as much as I could from everybody I could get a hold of. And I've never met anybody that I couldn't learn something from. But now that I have learned what I've learned, I don't think you people want to know what I know. You wouldn't like it.
Why?
Well, because it's not very nice.
Well, why?
Because the people that you let run your lives aren't very nice. The people that govern you, the people that tell you people what to do, they're not good people.
Let me change the subject for a minute.
Yeah.
So, but again, I smoked a lot of pot and did a lot of acid and listened to the Beatles when I was a kid too. So, you know, no, I mean, I know the lingo.
But yeah, because someone pointed that out to me. I didn't go and check myself, but I know you wouldn't steer me wrong. Yeah, apparently they said ambulatory schizophrenic, possibly in that would have been 68 or so. But that he didn't positively diagnose him by the sound of it. He just said possibly could have been.
Well, and you
that
know,
just means in remission. Yeah, not having many symptoms at the time. Yeah.
Part of really what my job is to listen to people and connect with them and to hear them and to try and address their needs, regardless of what their diagnosis is.
Yeah.
And so whenever you listen to what he's saying and you're really trying to listen to it with open ears and an open heart, I don't think he was that crazy at all. So what was his mood in August 68? I don't know that it was any...
They wouldn't have let him be interviewed if he really was ill. That's the
Right.
thing. There is a few years when you don't see any interviews from him, when they locked him in Vacaville and that. And maybe then he really was showing the real disordered speech and that. They just wouldn't let you interview him while he was like that. You know what I mean? They only let you film him while he was all right, you know.
While he was on.
Yeah, while he was on, while his symptoms were reducing, you know.
Like,
in
all right,
remission, word now
he's
that we use.
he's really on one now. Let's go ahead and get Geraldo in here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's better at the moment. Yeah, cool.
But also, I know that he was in solitary a lot because he had contraband, often recording equipment, communication devices he wasn't supposed to have, cell phones, drugs, stuff like that. And yet they still made him available. So, what ads? Jim Morrison's dad did escalate the World War II chicken attacks. That's correct.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Remember, it was on a U-boat. I'm on.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really tired tonight as well. So we probably won't do an after show. We'll just make this make it long. Make it long.
No, that's fine. I might actually get called into work here in a little bit. So this has kind of worked out the way that it was supposed to. Definitely.
Yeah, I just wanted to address this because I couldn't believe how interested people actually were in the psychosis bit. That's the part everyone was replaying. So I was like, I better address this and talk about it more. No one was absolutely certain he had schizophrenia. By the time we're analysing the modern data, no one was certain he had schizophrenia. He possibly had psychosis. He had some kind of psychotic disorder. But
more of a personality disorder, I think, NPD or BPD.
Yeah, that's what the modern people said. Yeah, the modern psychologists said it's a personality disorder and it was performative. And the guy interpreted him being performative as psychosis, but it wasn't.
But then again, that whole sociological aspect of performative males, especially in LA and in California at that time, was a thing. And so, I mean, it's still a thing now, but it was really a thing back then in that that society. And then also, really, they didn't have a real good handle on men's mental health at all. We're just now starting to get the awareness of mental health in general, normalizing it. And so we're starting to combat the toxic masculinity that's kind of prevented men from being able to seek help freely. And so they didn't really know how to diagnose men in the 60s and 70s.
Dr. Roy does say as well, if you watch that interview that he gives that other YouTube channel, I linked it in the description of the last stream. He says that he thinks Manson was using bizarre behavior as a defense mechanism to keep people away from him, to freak people out. So this was part of the reason why he did these things. And it's a self-defense thing, to stop himself from getting bullied or whatever,
It is a defense mechanism. It's like, you think I'm a villain, you think I'm a bully, you think I'm this. Well, let me go ahead and play up to that, and I'll be the monster.
Everything they projected onto him. He says that a lot. He tells you in every bloody interview. He's talking about
project your fears onto me, so that you feel better about your life. Absolutely, go ahead and do that. Don't do anything about yourself and the way you live. Project all the badness onto me because I'm the reason everybody's evil. Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense to me. Have I been going to Fight Club? Man, bro. Dude, man, bro. Throw that one up there, Nancy. I have not. I'm on my work computer. I have not been allowed to talk about Fight Club. No, man, I've worked every day this week. I'm tired. That's it. I've got my black eyes are. I come from that, honestly, man.
People don't jump in the chat. I accidentally put it on screen, man. Shit.
We're not even supposed to talk about Fight Club. Right.
Yeah, I can't talk about Fight Club. Or all the
it's from lack of sleep. It's from working hard, man.
Ooh. And I bet it's not your prescribed medication.
Steven says his kicking is kicking into my edible.
Yeah, that's it,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's worse things that people can do for sure than to take a little edible on a Sunday night. As long as you're not schizophrenic or schizoaffective.
As long as you don't have a psychotic disorder, you'll be all right.
Be all right. You'll sleep it off. Get up and go to work tomorrow. That's it. There's nothing wrong with that. If it's good to you, it's good for you in moderation. Everything in moderation, right?
Yeah, you can use it to treat certain mental illnesses. It helps with CPTSD.
It can.
Strains where there's more sativa or whatever, better for it. But it can help with CPTSD.
The danger with it, again, so it's kind of unregulated. So when they do a recommendation, they don't really have the dosage thing down on it.
Because they haven't really done official studies on thousands of people. You have to specify it.
And the danger with marijuana is that it's just so good at covering up symptoms. It's really good at what it does. And so many people will just lean on that. They're like, well, I don't need to go to therapy. I don't need to get any of these other coping mechanisms and put this stuff in my toolbox and grow as a person because I've got this weed and that makes me feel fine and it alleviates all my symptoms. So we're good. It's not the answer. Trust me. Like I tried to live on that for, a couple decades of leaning on that bag of weed. And it gets to a point where it doesn't work when there's real stuff happens that you need coping mechanisms for. If you're not used to utilizing them, you might even know about them. You can be intelligent and read a book and know about these breathing exercises, but if you don't know how to implement it into your life and apply it, you won't do it in the crises because it has to kind of become second nature in your de-escalation. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's good or bad. Everybody has to make their own decisions for sure. But, just be leery of that whole falling into the using anything as a crutch. Coffee, weed, sex, food, the internet, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is.
No. So there is actually research into psychedelics being good for certain mental illnesses. There's a psychologist called Dr. David Nutt in this country who is actually doing good research.
Small amounts. Jeremy Babel. small amounts of LSD or psilocybin mushrooms can help regenerate.
It's the difference between use and abuse, which is when you develop a tolerance and have to use more to get the same effects. That's then it's abuse, isn't it? That's different to use.
They say that small amounts of psilocybin, small amounts of LSD also kind of help regenerate certain aspects. Definitely.
And results with things that are difficult to treat, like eating disorders. That's a really, really difficult thing to treat and stuff like that. But psychedelic therapy has helped people, with weird, well, you don't want to call anyone weird, but, but like difficult to treat illnesses that don't respond to normal therapies and drugs and that,
Wish I could put the chat up on there. James Watson says, play Moby Dick.
John nonviolence playing Moby Dick for real.
It's been a while. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, he does. They've fired him. He's a really interesting dude, right? He was when Labour were in power, when Tony Blair, I think, was Prime Minister. It might have been Gordon Brown. He was the advisor to the government about drugs, and they asked him for advice about our drug laws. And the most controversial statement he made was ecstasy is only as dangerous as horse riding is more dangerous than ecstasy.
yeah,
Right? And statistically, it is, right? More
It is.
people die horse riding or injure themselves horse riding than are harmed by taking ecstasy. That was his point, right? He was an advisor to the government, and they had fired him because they didn't like what he said. And at the same time, loads of other advisors to the government quit because they said, "What? You're just going to ignore him because you didn't like what he said, and you're going to dismiss him." So loads
though
of
it was
other.
true.
He's a really well-respected psychologist who works at university, and he's the guy that's studying psychedelic therapy, mushrooms for depression.
And most people who take MDA or MDMA are just going to take like one pill or like one little line or, one
yeah,
little bit.
like once
and
every couple of weeks or once every few months, even. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's not something.
yeah, a couple times a year,
Even,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Right. They're not eating it all the time and they're not like taking a whole bunch of it. A minimal dose of MDA or MDMA in a therapeutic amount is like really not even a
Yeah.
danger to your body.
That's
at
actually
all.
his name. That's his name. That's how his name's spelt as well. Yeah, which is funny when they fired him and they tried to frame him as wrong. But when they fired him, loads of other advisors from all different sectors resigned in disgust because they said you can't just ignore him because you didn't like what he found. Because that wasn't all he said. They did, but that was the statement that shocked. The most shocking statement he made. The thing about horse riding being more dangerous.
I'm on my work computer, so I can't put any comments up. Will you throw the Billy Doyle comment up?
Yeah, well, we don't know what else happened to those guys as well, do we? There's all sorts of violent shit they probably went through in their lives.
He
there's
just
lots
woke
of-
up.
They were very abusive to women. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, that Bill Littler, her father was really, really abusive to women and stuff like that. Which is a sign that they had, narcissistic traits and possibly
Acapella.
PTSD themselves. That's another reason why people can lash out and all that sort of shit. Controlling.
Billy Doyle, I heard Billy Doyle was drugged and passed out during that, and so he just woke up saying he wasn't ever going to take Quaaludes again because they made his butt hurt.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he claimed he didn't recall. He just said woke up and his butt hurt.
No, he said in chaos, didn't he? His actual words in chaos was, I hurt everywhere but there. I think he just thrashed me. Surely if they'd done that, it would have hurt there. He said he didn't hurt there. But as Charles Tucko says, he thinks he did. He witnessed it or whatever, yeah.
It was everything
He
but
felt
there.
He felt a big cat or something, hadn't it? Yeah, so it's like, yeah. But then other people said he would deny it. No man would want to admit that had happened, so he would deny it.
No doubt. Yeah, that's why he said that everything happened but that. Oh, yeah, I was beaten from head to toe, but they did not touch that one area.
Yeah, otherwise I would have felt sore afterwards. But if it was a muscle relaxant that they gave him or whatever, maybe not. You don't know. Because it probably was some kind of barbiturate which fucking relaxes the muscles.
Well, and if you are engaged in that type of buggery behavior already,
This is what Dr. David Nutt basically did. He did the research, presented some sane, rational evaluations on the use and effects of all common recreational drugs. Cannabis is less harmful than alcohol and tobacco.
Absolutely.
Going from the rate of harm for people that abuse alcohol compared to the rate of harm for people that abuse cannabis, it's like, yeah.
Across the board, too. If you look at driving statistics, people who are driving drunk have way worse reaction time than people who are using cannabis. People who smoke cigarettes have, way more cancer issues and COPD and
heart issues and fucking valves getting
pulmonary. Absolutely. So he wasn't wrong. And cannabis is probably, again, to me, it means about as much as somebody taking tea, as long as they're not abusing it.
Yeah.
So.
This is what they say as well. It was Miss Tate's sleeping pills,
Oh, wow.
They gave.
Well, like some Seconal or Tuinol? Or
Well, that's usually the kind of thing they gave the actresses in them days, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You watched Valley of the Dolls. I can't
Valley of
believe
the
you-
Dolls,
I like
yeah,
Valley of
no
the
doubt.
Dolls. I got the book as well. The book goes into a lot more detail. I find it interesting because she really was an actress, Jacqueline Suzanne. So it's quite a reliable account of what it was like to be an actress and the amount of different pills they took.
Sure.
Because you
Well,
took a pill to wake you up, you had to take a barbiturates to knock you out at night, and then in the morning to wake you up, you had to take a speed pill.
take some
And
dextrine.
then you get anxiety from the speed, so you had another downer that you took during
Smoke
the day.
some weed. You smoke some weed in between.
And then,
have
yeah,
a
and then you
drink.
go to the party and your mate will give you cocaine and you might take LSD or whatever. Then you go home, drop another barbiturate, all mixed with alcohol because everyone drank like a fucking fish, didn't they? It's like, oh my god.
Johnny, you might have some kind of schizoaffective thing. You might need to go look at it. Ha ha ha. Remember, I can't diagnose, so you'll have to go talk to a professional.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it said. The pills that Billy Doyle was drugged with were said to be Sharon's. Yeah.
No, it's that kind of checks out.
Can't remember where that is. Is that from the family? I think that's in the family. They call them Miss Tate's pills, and it might be in Chaos as well. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Doesn't
Marilyn.
mean she was there because there's probably a medicine cabinet in the bathroom and she could have left some sleeping pills in there. That doesn't mean that she was there, does it? Yeah.
So I think it was
Because
Judy
there's
Garland.
debate about when it happened. Did it happen after she had arrived back? Did she know it had happened as well? That's the other thing. Yeah. But you have to back then though, it was normal to take these sleeping pills. It wasn't seen as drug abuse like it is now.
Right.
She wouldn't have been seen as a sleeping pill addict for taking a barbiturate at night, basically. And she probably was avoiding it while she was pregnant. Just because there was some sleeping pills with her name on in the bathroom cabinet, don't mean she'd taken them in the last 9 months or 8 months or however, you know what I mean? They might have just been there from before, Been at CLA Drive, you've got to think about it. Yeah, no, she was only just pregnant, wasn't she? So they'd been there about 8 months. So the prescription could have been an old one. Doesn't mean she was even taking them around the time, does it? Yeah.
So I mean, I think Judy Garland overdosed on Seconal, and I think Marilyn Monroe was taking Nembutal. The Dr. Feelgoods is what they called. I know President Kennedy got prescriptions for that, and he would also go get shots in his butt of speed. Yep, there you go.
No, I've
Bam.
got to say something about this as well because I did a stream ages ago about the guy, the Dr. Feelgood, and he gave JFK speed, and Sharon Tate is one of the people on his list.
Sure, there
Sharon
you go.
Tate took the speed shots from Dr. Feelgood. Yeah. What's his Max Jacobson? That's his name, Dr. Max Jacobson.
And they called it B12 shots.
Sharon Tate is one of the people.
They
He
called
called
it
called them vitamin shots, but it was actually speed with steroids and some vitamins. Yeah.
correct. Yep, they called it B12 shots, and you.
He probably didn't give the steroids to women. That was for men. But yeah, the formulation he gave to women was probably just the vitamins.
No, I think the steroids were in there to keep you from getting so thin, as long as you ate and worked out on them. I think that was
but
part of the
women
deal.
in the 60s, they wanted them to look thin, didn't they?
Little and thin, so you don't eat and you don't work out. Right.
Yeah.
Keep them thin. That's
Because
true.
it was really, they didn't want you to have any muscle definition, really, did they? It was kind of very long, thin muscles. And so she would have done yoga and that to make her muscle. She would have had a lot of muscle, but it was long and thin. So she looked skinny. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, and that's not necessarily healthy for you as you get older. You need muscle.
Now, for women as well, we get osteoporosis. Our bones get brittle. If your body fat is too low consistently your whole life, you stay really skinny your whole life. Yeah.
Need
bones
a
get
little bit
brittle.
of fat. Your brain needs fat too.
Yeah.
Kennedy had
Wilson's disease and a shrapnel wound in his back from World War II as well.
Yeah, PT
You see him
109.
wearing a corset and using sticks to get in and out of cars sometimes, and that's because of his shrapnel wound in his back. And that, yeah. He had this weird rare disease called Addison's disease. Yeah, he had. And the best they could do for him at the time was speed and steroids mixed together.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly the wrong thing for short term. I mean, especially the steroids for him.
Yeah, because the list in the back of that book doesn't tell you how many times they saw him. Yeah, but Sharon Tate is one of the names that comes up on his list of clients. Yeah, so it might have just been during one film.
Ollie,
But yeah, they did all sorts to stay as thin as they were in the 60s. It's really disturbing if you look into the amount of pills some of these women were fucking taking and that, And we know that she gave up everything when she was pregnant, didn't she? So she probably wouldn't take nothing while she was pregnant. But did they tell you that speed harmed the baby back then? You don't know. They might have let women keep taking pills while they were pregnant or whatever. You don't know. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into it.
It's definitely not
I
good.
know they didn't tell women not to drink, did they, in the 60s? Yeah,
they told you not to during the first trimester when things were forming, but that after that you could have a drink or two.
Remember to eat a green thing every day and have lots of calcium. It's very important for young mothers to have lots of calcium. Here you are. See you tomorrow night.
Bye.
And that's actually the worst time. The opposite is true. Do you know that?
I know.
No, the opposite is true. The brain is developing in the last few weeks. That's the most worst time you can really be drinking.
It explains why so many people from that time frame have fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yeah. They call that fetal alcohol spectrum disorder now. It's changed name. Yeah.
Yes.
But I think Susan Atkins probably had that, and possibly Manson himself.
Ollie, Dr. Feelgood's also a Motley Crue record. He's the one that called Dr. Feelgood. He's the one that makes you feel alright.
Yeah, there was another Dr. Feelgood as well. There's Max Jacobson. He's the one that did JFK, Marilyn Monroe, Sharon Tate, everyone. And there was another famous TV presenter who I've never heard of, but if you're American, you would probably know who he was. It sounds like he was, and he apparently wrecked him. He was really into fitness. He wrote books about building muscle and that, and he got into Max Jacobson's speed injections, and it destroyed him. Apparently, I don't remember his name, so I don't recognize his name. But yeah, to Americans, probably know who he was. Yeah,
damn near killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good times.
Yeah, it's the jaw. The jaw looks a bit too small. So that's the way to tell physically. Yeah, but we can't diagnose her just from looking at pictures of her, though. No, and yeah, she does show symptoms of it. Yeah. And Charles Manson as well. If you look at pictures of him, it's the size of his jaw.
Jack LaLanne lived to be like 100 and something, and he was always muscular. He could have kicked my ass, and he was in his 90s. He was
It wasn't a name I was familiar with, but if you was American, you basically would be from the 60s, obviously, yeah. And apparently, he ended up really ill with the speed. He got addicted to it because he gave people to turn up every night. Apparently, his clinic was open all night. People used to come in all through the night, and he liked collecting women. This is why he liked getting all the actresses hooked on it. Because he loved all these women having to rely on him, having to come and see him.
Throw Sam Smith's comment up here about the agent, the investigator for Bureau of Narcotics.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we talking about at Sharon Tate's at CeeLo Drive?
I can't fucking scroll
the
back
one
up.
above the Susan Atkins comment.
It said the drugs found at the home included hashish, from marijuana, and methadone, a hallucinatory drug, sometimes called speed.
Yeah,
Is that from the police report? I think that's at the police report, yeah. Because they said there was a roach in the ashtray somewhere, wasn't there? And Jay Sebring had a briefcase in his car with a selection of drugs in it, which seems to confirm, because Steve McQueen's wife, there's a quote from Steve McQueen's wife about Jay and his briefcase. And it sounds like a sample of everything he could get you, basically. There's several different types of drugs. And it's like, yeah, well, I can get you this or this, tell me and I'll go and get the amount you want, sort of thing. Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
Well, I mean, that's why he was able to.
About whether Jay was really a drug dealer or not, it's harder to prove.
Think about it though.
Frykowski, there was so much anecdotal evidence. I think he was, but people still debate whether Jay Sebring really was a drug dealer.
Well, because nobody wants to admit it. Why do you think they were getting $1,500 or $15,000 haircuts and flying him across the world and shit?
Yeah.
Like, no, it's got to be Jay Sebring. It's got to be fly him here and bring, blah blah blah, and he'd bring the shit and charge $15,000 for the fucking haircut or whatever, and then go back.
McQueen's wife and also Amos Russell said that Jay usually carried a satch around. Yeah,
had all the
and
drugs.
Also,
they called him the Candy Man. Small amounts of a few things at CeeLo because they took all the fucking big shit and they took all the video.
Well, that was it. Steve McQueen's biography. Sorry, yeah. I did a stream about all the stuff it says in two of Steve McQueen's biographies, which is basically when it all happened, Steve McQueen was worried his fingerprints were going to be on Jay's cocaine, so Steve McQueen helped clean out Jay's house. So Steve McQueen was that involved with the drug dealing that he actually handled the barrels of cocaine. That means, doesn't it? That means he wasn't just investing in it. Jay and Steve McQueen held the cocaine together, the bundle of cocaine. And a bundle of cocaine is a fucking lot of cocaine. That's like,
when you use drugs, you eventually get into dealing, period. I mean, I did. It's not even really a secret. I mean, so, the further up the chain you get is the length of time you're involved in it. And Steve McQueen did a lot of fucking blow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that checks out. You don't see it all in Charlie or Susan. What? Yeah. Fetal alcohol spectrum?
No, I've known people with it. Honestly, Susan looks like a textbook case of fetal alcohol syndrome. And so does Charlie. I've actually known people with it, yeah.
And if you listen to Susan talk, too, the way she talks and
she's very,
she's not, doesn't, she's still very childlike and not, she just doesn't come across as an adult with
So she's trying to
cognitive.
act like a woman, innit? Yeah, that's what it sounds
Well, yeah,
like.
she's got this kind of a cognitive dissonance going on
Yeah.
about what reality's supposed to
Yeah.
be.
Well, at the time we
shouldn't
hear
be.
most from her, she was probably really psychotic as well. They shouldn't have even been writing down what she was saying, let alone publishing it and letting her say it in court, but they did. Yeah.
And Mike K, that's just it. Whenever you're doing meth and cocaine and other drugs, like you don't really eat good food and you don't brush your teeth, you don't take care of it. I mean, I did more drugs than anybody when I did drugs. I still have all my teeth. That's because I ate and I brushed my teeth. And whatever James Watson just posted, I didn't do that either. So, we're good.
Yeah, that's the quote from Steve McQueen's wife. I began to resent Jay Sebring's presence in the house. Jay in his damn briefcase. Jay's briefcase with his combs and scissors and the little packets of coke. That's what Steve McQueen's wife said. And if you read, I did a stream where I show you the relevant passages from 2 of Steve McQueen's biographies. And one says, and they go into how that Jay and Steve and Sharon used to have threesomes. And Steve McQueen was worried the baby might be his. So must have had a threesome with her around that time, yeah.
Well, I mean, remember the video that
Their marriage was really bad, and Roman was cheating on her and embarrassing her, going out with Warren Beatty and shagging more women than Warren Beatty did, and that, so it was embarrassing her. So,
but also he filmed a video supposedly of Sharon having sex with 2 guys that we don't know.
Yeah, against their will. Yeah, video says as well, isn't it? Yeah.
But maybe they're acting, and maybe it's Jay and frickin' Steve McQueen in that video, and that's why they don't want to talk about it.
The thing was, what was it? Steve McQueen and someone else and Mama Cass, weren't it? It's the other rumor, yeah. But two men. I think it might be Warren Beatty and Steve McQueen with Mama Cass.
Why do you think everybody had to go clean all them houses out?
Yeah. But we'll never have any evidence of any of it's true, will we? I don't think.
No, it just checks out. It makes
they've been destroyed.
If you put together the composite of all of the evidence that has been presented and the things that we know, and then you make the next logical conclusion, right?
Courtney, it depends how severe it is, how severe the deformity of their face is, right? If they've got the very worst version, then there's a lot of deformation of their face, but it's not always that bad. It's a spectrum of this, and it's the small jaw. If you look at Susan Atkins' head, and Charles Manson also has, his jaw looks a bit too small for his head. Basically.
Summit Ridge Drive, NJ, was that
the very
Patty
worst
Duke's
cases, there's more just deformation of their jaw, and they get the thing where they can't get their jaw's so small you can't fit 2 fingers in your mouth. That's how you tell if your jaw is opening normally, right? If you can fit 2 fingers in, you should be able to fit 2 fingers into you. Yeah. That's how they diagnose it, basically.
Summit Ridge Drive, is that Patty Duke's house, right? That's where they lived before.
Yeah. Yes, and Patty Duke, wanted the house back, so they had to move. And Winifred Chapman was Patty Duke's maid, and Sharon asked her to go with her to see how they drive, so she did. Didn't know that when I wrote all the articles and did the streams about her. I could add that to the article.
Yeah, Johnny, Mama Cass too. Big girls need love. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, man, Mama Cass got around, dude. She got hers. Yeah, good thing Bugliosi time traveled back into August and convinced the police to put the video back in the loft.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a lot for somebody who wasn't assigned to the case till like November or some shit.
Yeah, that's it. Whole thing just sounds so sus, doesn't it?
He's a fucking tool shed.
It's like they didn't want to catch them as well. They were trying not to, but they started blabbing in prison, didn't they? So they couldn't avoid arresting them. It's really strange that,
I think Whitney and Gunther knew as early as fucking September who had done it. They were convinced, I think.
Yeah.
The most amazing thing to me is how they were taken in on that raid and then released, and all that evidence was collected, and like the tactical precision of a raid like that, and the taxpayer expense and all the resources that they used to just turn around and do that. And then if it wasn't for them burning those fucking earth moving machines up in Inyo County, they would have never got caught up there.
Yeah.
Fucking Goler Wash and Barker Ranch and shit. They were literally in the middle of nowhere. There was like
Yeah.
one cop per
Yeah,
100
you have
miles.
to bring
up there.
water with you, didn't they? If they'd run out of water, they could have all died and stuff like that. There's no water out there. That's another thing. If you haven't
Yeah.
seen the place, you don't realise how isolated they are, and there is absolutely no water. You're in the desert, literally. And you have to bring
They
water
had to
with
ration it. They were miserable out there. You had to
Yeah.
ration the shit, and you had to
you.
go
And people had
all
to
the
go
way
back through runs to get water and stuff like that. Yeah.
into a town called Ballarat, and that was like
There's a guy who's bought a silver mine that's in Death Valley somewhere, and he's filming. Have you heard of this guy on YouTube? He's bought an old silver mine and he's restoring it and turning it into a museum. And he's going down into it and he's finding like old Levi's from the like early 20th century and selling them for tons of money and all that.
Yeah.
But he's going to turn it into a museum. But he walks through Death Valley and he goes past a lot of these places. It's interesting to watch it. To give you an impression of what Death Valley actually fucking looks like.
Oh,
And this
yeah,
is what
no.
they drove the bus through as well. This is what's so mental. How did he get the bus through some of these bits? And that, yeah. How did they get a bus up there? Inyo County Sheriff's Park Rangers outside of Barker Ranch, October 1969. Better picture of the bus there, isn't it? Felony bus parked in front of Barker Ranch. Photo. Girls in the pickup after the Barker raid, yeah, so that's them all sat in the truck. Recognise Squeaky and Gypsy at least.
And whenever they talk about him flying it up in there, you almost kind of, in a way, got to believe it because there's no fucking way you
Yeah.
could have drove that thing up there.
No, he must have been jumping things and that, trying to launch it, mustn't he?
Well,
Just
that's why they
speeding,
could-
running at it and speeding at it to the jump.
That's why
you
the
can
bus
see
is
the scratches on the bottom of the bus if you look at the
still
pictures of it.
sitting there to this day. Yeah, because you can't fucking move it. It's done. And you can't get the
Oh,
shit
it's
up there
been
to
chucked
fix it.
into a ravine somewhere. They've moved it from the place because so many people were going to try and see it, sort of thing. But I don't think it's put people off. People still go to Barker Ranch, don't they? I see the videos of it.
Sure.
Cool, we've been going over an hour now anyway.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. I need to go check my phone and see if I'm going to work or not. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, this was a good one. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. An ET, what are you on about? There's a picture of that's cats, and that's an owl. What are you on about? Yeah. Yeah.
Possible dust clouds.
Yeah.
Human centipede. It's a cat centipede, Ollie.
Yeah.
Feline centipede.
Yeah, they're all stitched together. What a nightmarish existence it must be for them. Yeah. It's a real drum kit. Yeah, he's just got a photo of a drum kit behind
Oh,
him. Yeah.
That's why he was saying play Moby Dick, you know? It's like, yeah, for real. The left drumstick has a scratch on it.
Yeah.
Chip. Color does.
I think it's meant to be a door, a draft excluder to go along the bottom of the door. But I like it. I just stick it up there. So you get dirty on the floor.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Hi, hat. Tell bad jokes and do rim shots. Next time. We're getting too close for that, you know.
Yeah.
We'll do that in an after
that's
show.
all we needed to get through. So that's, just all you need to know really is, no one positively, absolutely said he had schizophrenia. And it's really questionable now. And we don't have enough information to really know. But it does look like he probably did have schizophrenia. And if he did have schizophrenia and was psychotic in August 1969, that brings everything into question. The whole health.
Maybe schizoaffective, I think, is where we got with
Yeah,
it.
I think schizoaffective because I think
Maybe.
he's mania as well.
But we don't have enough. But definitely
Yeah, that's it. We don't have
CPTSD. We could go with CPTSD and some personality disorder.
Yeah. And like I
Yep.
say as well, they won't have let him be interviewed when he was really, really ill. You won't have seen him if he was having real disordered speech, disordered thought. You know what I mean? They would have covered it up, won't they? So-
Denji, no.
Or it's not ethical to let him be interviewed as well. That's another thing. If he's so thought disordered he can't string words together properly, it's unethical to let him be filmed and interviewed. So they wouldn't have let them interview him
Sure.
unless he was doing well, Yeah.
But we've never.
Yeah, sorry, no after
seen
show.
him.
Yeah, I'm not going to do an after show because I'm really
Not
tired.
tonight, but I have other ones to put up still, so there'll be another one put up on my channel anyway. And there'll be plenty of stuff going on. You guys will be all right. It'll be
Yeah,
fine.
Isn't
Go
anyone
play
else
an old one.
Sometimes, what's his name? TLB, Brian, isn't it? Yeah, but is he going to go live? Don't know.
TLB definitely.
TLB, sometimes he does, doesn't he? Yeah. Still.
But yeah, we'll get that together. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do next week yet, but yeah, I had to do a part 2 though when I realised how much people were actually interested in the schizophrenia part. I thought, oh well, better explain it then, don't I? But we don't know for sure he had schizophrenia. We don't have enough information. I think it looks like he had some mania as well, and yes, he probably did have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. It's what you call a complex case, which means he had more than one thing going on, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
I would consider him definitely co-occurring, dual diagnosis.
Yeah, dual
You know,
complex case is another term, and it means there's more than
sure.
one thing happening. Yeah, basically.
Right. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and again, without his family history and without directly
Yeah,
interviewing him, like
more information, seeing what he
more
was like when he
information.
was really showing bad
Yeah.
symptoms as well. This is the thing. He probably was in remission when they let him be filmed, you know.
Well, then I've never seen him where he wasn't, at least, you see him where he's up and playing for the camera and you see him more
Yeah.
lucid, but he's always the same person and he's always focused kind of the same way. And
Yeah.
it's never been like
And what he's
just,
saying does make sense if you understand the slang he's using, and that he is
Right.
deliberately being evasive. So he's not
Correct.
telling you but he's trying to not tell you everything, sort of thing. But if you
can't
can
be a
understand that,
snitch, and he's placing everything out there so that you can read between the lines.
Yeah.
And see what's going on, and he's always on that. Kink's Conspiracy is a great album, Aussie. Thank you,
Mhm.
Ollie. Thank you, Aussie Ollie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's intentionally evasive.
Fucking weirdly enough, yeah. So my dad as well. Very different accent, but yeah, there's the patterns. Yeah.
Charles Manson's yelling reminds you of your dad.
Yeah.
That's scary.
That's what James said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want you to straighten up this area now! You are a disgusting slob! Stand up straight! Tuck in that shirt! Adjust that belt buckle! Tie those shoes! Twisted sister! What is that? Wipe that smile off your face. Do you understand?
I like Dave Davies and I like Billy Corgan. Actually, Smashing Pumpkins, if you go see them now with the 3 guitar lineup, they're killing it. And Billy's able to concentrate more on his vocals, so he delivers like a really consistent vocal.
Yeah, how's his
performance.
voice? I haven't actually looked.
Fantastic.
He still sounds good, does he? Yeah, isn't it?
Now, Axl Rose, on the other hand, we mentioned him earlier. He needs to sing in the lower register now. He needs to stop trying to sound like he did in the 90s. It's not going to fly anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian Davies shouting. I got you. Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, Brian Davies.
Gotcha. Better than Dave Davies.
Yeah, I was going to end this one. I've gone on for 1 hour, 12 minutes now.
See y'all next week.
Yeah, see you next week, guys. Thanks for coming.